There is a grief that arrives late, not at the moment of the wound, but years later, sometimes decades later, when you finally have enough distance, enough safety, enough language to look back at what happened and call it what it was. This is the grief of the childhood you deserved but never had. For a long time, you didn't know it was grief. You called it being realistic. You called it just how things were. You called it not that bad, one because there were people who had it worse. But comparison is not the measure of pain. Your childhood doesn't have to have been the worst childhood in the world for you to grieve what it lacked. You deserve to feel safe. You deserve to be seen. You deserved a home where love wasn't conditional on your behavior, your silence, your smallness. And if you didn't get those things, that is a loss, a real one, worth grieving properly. Here's what makes this grief so complicated. The people who didn't give you those things are often still in your life. They're your parents, your family, the people you're supposed to love and honor and be grateful for. And so you've spent years doing a kind of emotional math that doesn't add up, minimizing what happened so you don't have to feel disloyal for grieving it, excusing the behavior so you don't have to confront the loss, telling yourself you turned out fine so you don't have to admit that some parts of you didn't. But the body keeps the score, and the parts that didn't turn out fine show up anyway, in the relationships you choose, in the way you respond to conflict, in the stories you tell yourself about what you deserve. The grief of an unlived childhood is not about blaming your parents. It's about finally telling the truth to yourself, that the child you were needed more than they received, that the environment you grew up in shaped you in ways you are still untangling, that the armor you built to survive was necessary then but is costing you now. So what do you do with this grief? First, let it be grief, not resentment, not a story you tell at dinner, but real, quiet, honoring grief for the childhood that should have been different. Second, separate the child from the adult. You, the adult, are not responsible for what happened to you as a child. You were powerless then. You are not powerless now. Third, give the child what the adults couldn't: safety, validation, the message that their feelings made sense. This is what inner child work actually is. Not a therapy buzzword, but the practice of becoming the parent you needed for the parts of yourself that are still waiting. You cannot go back. You cannot change what happened. You cannot give that child what it needed in the moment it needed it. But you can grieve it properly. You can stop pretending it was fine. You can decide that the story doesn't end with what you were given. It continues with what you choose to give yourself. Know more. Feel more. Heal more.